like, the way you act as if I had an affair or I cheated on you. And I'm like, I know that we were broken up. Okay, logically, I know we were broken up, but my heart did not. For you, the relationship ended. For me, it didn't.
Right.
And so for me, having to know that you're with someone else and my heart is still with you, and yes, I moved on to marry Ryan, but my heart still stayed with Ken. So I'm like, the way you have to be sensitive about it is that's a hurt that is so deep. And so when I find a greeting card of her telling you y'all schnoogly booglies and...
Serious, you were gonna ask yourself, what the fuck does she see in this guy? We all know the reason why she's with Ken is because Ken sees dollar signs, he sees fame, he sees attention. And now he is using their daughter to get all of that attention as well too. It's almost like he wants her to trip up and do something crazy so that way he can just take everything she has. Gypsy Rose cannot move a finger around this guy without him getting upset, irritated, condescending, rude, or disrespectful. Now don't get me wrong, do I think Gypsy Rose should even have a platform? Absolutely not. Do I understand that by me talking about her she's going to stay relevant? Absolutely. But sometimes you just can't help it. And while I 100% disagree with what Gypsy Rose did to her mother, I get it, but I still disagree with it. There was a better way to handle it.
Like, if I mention Ryan, he'll bring up her. Like, if I say it's the tit for tat thing, and I'm like, okay, I get it.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard's drama just keeps getting messier, and this latest episode of Life After Lockup proves that the chaos is far from over. If anyone thought prison had been a wake-up call for her, they were sorely mistaken, because Gypsy is still caught in the same exhausting cycle of manipulation, emotional meltdowns, and playing the victim at every turn. Her relationship with Ken is already showing major cracks, and instead of growing from her past, she seems to be repeating the same toxic behaviors that got her into trouble before. Whether it's her explosive reactions over minor things, her inability to take accountability, or the way she keeps stirring up old drama with Ryan, Gypsy seems more focused on keeping the attention on herself than actually building a healthy future. This episode laid it all bare: her emotional instability, her constant need for validation, and the way she navigates relationships like a game of control and guilt tripping. From her dramatic breakdown at the restaurant to her petty mind games involving her ex, it's clear that Gypsy hasn't fully moved on, and honestly, it's starting to look like she doesn't want to. If she truly wanted a fresh start, wouldn't she be working on real change instead of falling back into the same old patterns? Instead, what we saw was a masterclass in deflection, emotional manipulation, and of course, a whole lot of mess. The tension between Gypsy and Ken hit a boiling point in the most unexpected way over crab, of all things. It started when Ken made a sarcastic joke about her not eating crab, and suddenly, Gypsy was in full meltdown mode, storming off to the bathroom like she'd just been publicly humiliated. She sat there, crying, talking about how embarrassed she felt.
You got yours and I got mine.
I'm squirting milk everywhere. Look at my face.
Girl, you look scared. I texted him, I said, octopus, really? Like, no.
He went hard with trying exotic foods.
Not that scary.
I never ate octopus in my life. That or squid. Not doing it, not doing it, not doing it. Oh, here.
Just eat it. Oh, thank you. It's really good.
Turning what was clearly a harmless joke into a full-blown dramatic spectacle.
Oh, I can't believe you ate it.
Just swallow it. Just
Look
swallow
at my face. I'm like, God, why?
I wouldn't have swallowed it. I'd say, give me your hand.
it. Really, is that bad? I think it's amazing.
Well, good for you.
So happy for you.
Little suction cups, look at that.
That would have made me want to throw.
Yeah,
He's
that's
going out
pretty
just
cool.
to be a dick.
Delicioso. Very good. She doesn't love it. It's her first time trying.
I'm good. See, this is the part that I was crying about.
Yeah.
Well, she tried.
And then you're pregnant, your hormones. And, but yeah, that's what
Yeah,
upset her people was that he embarrassed her.
That I'm
Beautiful.
like,
Thank you.
I didn't want to be rude,
All right. So that's not
I
what
didn't
expected,
wanna-
but it's gorgeous.
knock the food.
You want some?
So, by just saying, it's fine. Like,
Yes, you will.
but it's the part of the public training
Yeah,
that I was
right.
upset about.
I'd have house that salad right here.
But let's be real, was her reaction truly about the comment, or was it something deeper? Because if we're talking about public humiliation, let's not forget that Gypsy had zero problem doing the exact same thing to her ex, Ryan. Back in the day, she trashed him without a second thought, criticizing his looks. making snide remarks and straight up embarrassing him in front of others. But now, when the tiniest joke is made at her expense, suddenly she's the most fragile person in the world. It's giving selective outrage, and people are starting to notice. Ken, however, wasn't about to let Gypsy paint him as the bad guy. He later clarified that his comment was nothing more than playful banter, never meant to hurt her, but instead of letting it slide, she immediately turned it into a full-blown emotional crisis. And here's the thing, Ken admitted that while Gypsy tends to lash out emotionally, he's the type to bottle up his feelings, which speaks volumes about the dynamic at play. Because let's be real, this is starting to look like a familiar pattern with Gypsy. Her relationships always seem to revolve around her emotional highs and lows, leaving the people around her tiptoeing, constantly trying to avoid setting her off.
This is when I start crying, like right there. That's when I look away, is like when I start crying.
I was telling Gigi, thumbs up. Thumbs up.
I was like trying to keep it
all the
low
way
key.
down to the right.
Oh, like son of a...
Didn't realize that I still was mic'd.
And if that wasn't telling enough, the fact that she and Ken are already in therapy despite only being together for 5 minutes, that's not just a red flag, that's a flashing neon sign with sirens blaring. Instead of basking in the honeymoon phase, they're already knee-deep in communication issues, constantly trying to navigate tension instead of enjoying their time together. At this rate, their relationship isn't looking like a love story. It's looking like a ticking time bomb, and when it finally explodes, it won't be pretty.
How long till we think Ryan Anderson comes back into Gypsy Rose's life? Now listen, I get it, okay? We are the ones that are keeping Gypsy Rose relevant in the first place, but if you have even watched the first episode or two of her reality series, you are gonna ask yourself, what the fuck does she see in this guy? We all know the reason why she's with Ken is because Ken sees dollar signs, he sees fame, he sees attention. And now he is using their daughter to get all of that attention as well too. It's almost like he wants her to trip up and do something crazy so that way he can just take everything she has. Gypsy Rose cannot move a finger around this guy without him getting upset, irritated, condescending, rude, or disrespectful. Now don't get me wrong, do I think Gypsy Rose should even have a platform? Absolutely not. Do I understand that by me talking about her, she's going to stay relevant? Absolutely. But sometimes you just can't help it. And while I 100% disagree with what Gypsy Rose did to her mother, I get it, but I still disagree with it. There was a better way to handle it. And all this girl is trying to do is make a life for herself the only way that she knows how. And going back into the world after being convicted of what she was convicted of and trying to get a job is going to be damn near impossible. So this is how she has to provide for her family, then so be it. But damn, give me a break. She needs to go get back with that other guy because this guy is not doing it for her.
If that wasn't bad enough, Gypsy also had a moment in the kitchen that was both hilarious and painfully telling. She tried to cook scrambled eggs for Ken simple enough, right? Wrong. She completely ruined them, and instead of admitting she messed up, she blamed the stove, saying it was malfunctioning. Now, this might seem like a minor thing, but when you look at the bigger picture, it's just another example of her refusing to take responsibility.
Explain that it's not healthy and not to verbalize when my feelings are hurt. Because if I don't say anything and you don't say anything, nothing gets said, nothing gets solved.
Just make sure you keep it from sticking. Keep moving it around. Is that good?
Yeah. Thank you. We are in this for the long haul. There's nothing that is so wrong that can't be fixed or worked on.
Oh, is it good?
It's very good. And now we know how to make it.
This is the same woman who blamed Nick for coercing her into committing a crime and who spent years pointing the finger at DD for everything that happened. Now, no one is saying she wasn't a victim in her mother's twisted world, but the way she constantly avoids accountability for anything is beyond suspicious. Every mistake, every bad choice, it's always someone else's fault. The egg fiasco was just another tiny glimpse into that pattern. Just when it seemed like things couldn't possibly get more chaotic, Gypsy decided to drop a bombshell in the most nonchalant yet totally calculated way. She casually mentioned that Ryan had texted her. Now, let's be real, there was nothing casual about it. The way she brought it up. Way too strategic. Almost like she was conducting a little social experiment on Ken just to see how he'd react.
Like, the way you act as if I had an affair or I cheated on you. And I'm like, I know that we were broken up. Okay, logically, I know we were broken up. But my heart did not. For you, the relationship ended. For me, it didn't.
Right.
And so for me, having to know that you're with someone else and my heart is still with you. And yes, I moved on to marry Ryan, but my heart still stayed with Ken. So I'm like, the way you have to like, be sensitive about it is that's a hurt that is so deep. And so when I find a greeting card of her telling you y'all schnoogly booglies and, you know, yes, that's their term, schnoogly booglies.
And then, you know, you get to process all of that.
And I'm like, I'm having to like find all this stuff, and then like whenever he was asleep and his phone was right there, I had grabbed his phone and I was looking at something, and the moment I opened it up, it's a picture of him and her.
That's when he was comparing.
That's whenever he was like, why are you upset? And I'm like, because like you still have all these pictures. I didn't want to see her in a bra. I didn't want to see y'all kissing. Like that hurts. And I'm like, how do you even, like, why do you still have that on your phone? And he's like, well, I was looking at it because people online, the haters, were comparing how I hold you or like take pictures with you or my arm around your shoulder, and I wanted to see if I did it with her, and I did, and I was like, okay, well now.
Well, you're 4'11", and she's probably
like
taller,
5 something.
so
Yeah, probably.
Was she hoping to poke the bear and spark some jealousy? Maybe stir the pot a little just to keep things interesting? Because the way she delivered the news, with that barely concealed smirk, it was clear she was expecting some fireworks. But Ken, oh, he did not give her the reaction she was fishing for. Instead of blowing up or throwing a fit, he played it way too cool, brushing it off like it was nothing. He simply shrugged and said Ryan was probably just having a low moment but had already moved on. And you know that was not the response Gypsy was hoping for. She wanted tension, she wanted chaos, she wanted Ken to care in a big, dramatic way. But instead, he shut it down in one sentence, leaving her visibly thrown off. For a split second, you could see it in her face, that flash of disappointment when she realized her plan had completely backfired. And let's talk about her attitude toward Ryan. She casually mentioned blocking his number like it was nothing, without even the slightest hint of guilt or reflection on their past. No remorse, no acknowledgement of how things ended, just a cold, detached statement. It's almost like she enjoys the idea that these men are still hung up on her, as if she thrives on knowing that she has some kind of hold over them. This isn't just about Ryan, this is about Gypsy's need for validation. She loves the idea of people lingering in her orbit, staying obsessed with her long after she's moved on.
Like, if I mention Ryan, he'll bring up her. Like, if I say it's the tit for tat thing, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it.
It's almost like she wants to be the center of everyone's universe, no matter how much damage it causes in the process. At this point, it's painfully clear that Gypsy hasn't learned a single lesson from her past. She's still playing games, still manipulating, and still using people, especially Ken, as pawns in her never-ending quest for attention. The most disturbing part, she doesn't seem to care who gets hurt along the way. This episode of Life After Lockup gave us a front-row seat to the madness. And if there's one thing we can all agree on, it's that this story is far from over. Gypsy is stuck in a cycle of drama, guilt-tripping, and control, and unless something major changes, it doesn't look like she's getting out of it anytime soon. So the real question is, will she ever own up to her actions, or will she keep playing the victim in her never-ending reality show? One thing's for sure, this mess isn't going away, and we'll be watching every second of it. Alright, Yalel, that's a wrap on this wild ride. But trust me, this Gypsy Rose drama is far from over, and you know we're gonna be here for every twist and turn. What do you think? Is Gypsy just misunderstood, or is she playing the same old games? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I need to hear what Yalel think. And if you're loving the tea, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. I'll be back with more piping hot gossip real soon, so stay tuned. Until next time, keep sipping that tea, and I'll see you in the next one.